Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
At the halfway point of the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, we come to a track that is nestled well within the heart of any road racer, WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca. This 11-turn roller coaster of a ride plays host to an intensifying title fight between two drivers who have been the class of the field by far. While the points leader continues to be Jesse Webb, it was a rare second-place finish last week at Imola after his closest title pursuer, Chris Beets, took the checkered flag and what was a last-lap pass for the win. Now, with 5 races to go, the window of opportunity is closing, and the rest of the field is still vying for their first chance at a victory. Who will be the one to shine after the 60-minute California contest? This is round 6 of the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, and it's coming at you live on Pit Stop TV. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the virtual and scenic Laguna Seca. I'm Eric Brennan. Pleasure to be on the call with you for tonight's races. Also a pleasure to be joined tonight by JP Costa, who's back at the booth. First time him and I have had a chance to work together in some time, and we'll hear from JP in just a moment. Emerson Arden handling our production duties, and as always, Corey Rexford is holding it down for us across the social media platforms. Speaking of, be sure to check us out if you have not done so already on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Share it around. We promise we've got an entertaining show for you tonight, especially with this series being as competitive as it has been all season long. And what better place to continue this season, the second half of the 2021 campaign, than at the WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca. And JP, first of all, welcome to the show. And second off, this place is incredible. I mean, as a fan, a viewer, a broadcaster, you absolutely have to love all that this track has to offer on the sim, and I can expect that it's going to prove why it is a favorite amongst many racers here tonight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this one is a driver's favorite. I guess there's not a single driver here that doesn't want to race at Laguna Seca. You know, it's pretty much unforgiving. If you break on the grass, you're pretty much going to spin. It has some challenging corners, just like the corkscrew. It has some blind corners. It's just an amazing roller coaster of a ride. You know, you have a lot of elevation changes, a lot of fast corners, some slow corners to catch you out. A few overtaking spots, even though overtaking is very difficult at this track. I'm sure we're going to see lots of those due to different paces and different strategies. It's just going to be amazing. As you can see, we have a track map here, 11 corners. We have turn 1, a slight kink to the left, turn 2, which is a long sweeping double apex corner, turn 3, a fast flowing third gear corner, turn 4, also a fast corner, able to catch a lot of drivers out, turn 5 where you brake and start going uphill to turn 6, which is a blind left-hander, can catch a lot of drivers out, especially in the sausage curb as they head into the corkscrew of turns 8 and 8A. And then they're gonna head downhill at turn 9 and turn 10 as they head into the final corner at turn 11, which is another overtaking opportunity as they head into the main straight.
This track registering 2.238 miles in length, and is certainly going to provide numerous opportunities for our racers here tonight as far as where they can make up some ground and pass, and also where those mistakes could happen. As JP was just talking about, he mentioned the corkscrew, which is probably one of the sectors of the track that is most well known at Laguna Seca. Whether it's an open wheel car, a sports car, it doesn't seem to matter. It continues to be one of the best and most fun parts of this layout, and that's certainly where we're going to see a lot of our action here tonight. Now, as far as the series and the championship standings, we talked about some of the drivers who were atop of the points by hogging up all the wins. There you see it, 17 markers is the deficit right now between Jesse Webb and Chris Beets. 5 races so far this season. All 5 wins have gone to those top 2, with Chris Brunnemer currently holding down 3rd in points and James Hansen 4th. Jackson Lowry rounds out your top 5. There are some names, though, on this list who have not made the call for all 5 races, and one of which we thought would be a threat to win tonight, Nick Ledecky. As of right now, with qualifying underway, we have not seen him enter the server just yet, so it looks as though this may be the second race that Ledecky does not make for 2021, as he came off another podium finish just last week at Imola. Curtis Jones, you see there in 7th, John Wittendorf 8th, James Allen 9th, and Trevor Anderson your top 10. And JP, I understand that this is your first race that you're working with us for this series, but being sick, this is now 5 races in the books. Only 2 drivers have gone to victory lane, and judging by practice, they're right up there towards the front. But there are a couple of names that are wedging their way up there towards the top of the pylon. Do you think maybe we'll see a 3rd winner at this race?
Well, it's definitely possible, and I guess if one racetrack it could happen, it could be this one. Traffic management is very important on this racetrack, and since it's very narrow and the overtaking opportunities are very slim, we definitely could see a new winner. We saw Mikael Ruderbusch topping out the practice session on the final few seconds, so he could throw a spinner in the mix. We don't know yet. Unfortunately, right now he says around 4 tenths behind Chris Beets. In 2nd place, but he could definitely throw something up for us tonight. I hope he does. I hope he makes Chris Beets' race very, very difficult. But we also have a few different names up there, so it could be a very, very interesting race tonight.
So this race, pretty much one of the last ones that we're going to have in our string of sprint racing events. Going to be 60 minutes in length tonight. Next week, it's an extended, a long-form race. It's going to be our 2nd on the season. It's going to be at the Nürburgring, then another endurance race at Sebring to follow. So this is the last sprint opportunity for the next 3 rounds of competition as we watch some of these cars diving their way down into the corkscrew on the backside of the course, turn 8 and 8A. And as JP was mentioning, Mikael Ruderbusch kind of upset the apple cart late in the going. As a matter of fact, Corey Rexford was joking. He was about to put out a post to promote this event, and he thought that we had the final running order and practice in place, and thankfully did not press send just yet, because Ruderbusch turned in a flyer literally in the final seconds. However, right now in this qualifying session, as you see on the top of your screen, Chris Beets, last week's winner, after an incredible, probably the best race we've had all season long between he and Jesse Webb, just pretty much staying in lockstep formation. He lost the lead at the white flag, but an uncharacteristic mistake by Webb a couple of corners into that final lap opened the door for Beets to come through for his 2nd win of the season, and he is now riding that wave of momentum to the top of the pylon as we hit about the halfway point of this qualifying session. Scheduled session time, 20 minutes in length. As you see, we have about 10.5 minutes left to go with Beets, Lubenow, Ruderbusch, your top 3. Perhaps the surprise of the session so far is that the point leader Jesse Webb is down in 5th. still in the top 5, but look at that gap, though. 0.6 of a second is a huge mistake in front of Chris Beets there at the corkscrew. That's definitely going to throw off this lap time for him if he was trying to improve on the lap that he had set, which currently is a 1 minute 22nd, 0.423. He's about 0.3 clear of the field as we are halfway through this session, qualifying for round number 6 of the 2021 season.
And during this qualifying session, I was just noticing a lot of drivers putting different strategies even in qualifying. Some drivers are going for multiple laps to get the confidence up, just trying to minimize the mistakes and improving the lap time. Some drivers are just going for one-lap shootouts, just one out lap and the flying lap, and then just straight back to the pits to get another lap in. So it's very interesting to see the different strategies that drivers are adopting in this relatively short qualifying session.
And it's hard to believe that when we talk about a track that measures 2.2 miles in length, that traffic could be a factor, especially in qualifying. We have 31 cars that have turned a lap time so far in this session. 33 have entered into tonight's session. We did see a lap time set by Randall Ayers in practice. So far, he has not turned a lap in this qualifying session. And Justin Michaela now becomes the 32nd car to take time after he did not partake in practice, at least not for the official session. And he has just turned his first lap of competition. And that was, of course, a warm-up lap because it puts him down towards the bottom of the running order, 1 minute 33-second lap time. Michaela, a name that we will be talking about tonight, as he started off the season on a solid foot, top 15 finish to kick things off, but he finally started catching on some top 10s. In fact, he's on a little bit of a roll. Back-to-back top 10 finishes for the driver who's 15th place in points, and Michaela, who is just now starting to get the feel of this car under these track conditions. And he will try to improve on his lap time, see if he can get on up there into the top 10, as Jesse Webb has jumped back up into the top 3. So it's Beets, Lubenow, and Webb, your top 3 so far in this session, while everybody's trying to find some clear track in order to lay down a relatively quick lap time to improve their starting position.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of drivers are trying to minimize the mistakes. And we're seeing a lot of mistakes in qualifying right now. I was taking a look at laps in practice, and I saw some drivers doing an excess of 60 laps in 1 hour and 40 minutes that they had in official practice session. So it's crazy to see now drivers are obviously pushing the limits of the car to try to extract as much time as possible from the racetrack. As I was just looking, Jesse Webb unfortunately got T-boned on the exit of turn 4, if I'm not mistaken. So even those top drivers are making mistakes, even on warm-up laps and of qualifying laps, flying laps. So just obviously qualifying is essentially the time to make mistakes. You obviously don't want to do them in the race, but Jesse Webb has a lot of time to catch up, nearly 4 tenths behind his championship rival.
Yeah, that's where these drivers certainly have to be mindful of who they're around. Who are they in close proximity with? Perhaps you're with someone who's still trying to figure out the layout and their braking points in preparation for tonight's race. And if you're somebody who is amongst the top 10 on the speed charts as of right now, you may not want to be around somebody who's still trying to pick it up immensely from the bottom portion of the 20th place or so, as Brunnemer goes all 4 wheels off there through the left-handed corner, heading up now the straightaway towards the corkscrew. Hard on the binders here. Looks like he overshot the corner there. There's a car that spun just in front of him as well. So Brunnemer on an eventful couple of laps here. That was Brady Lubenow, who's trying to push harder to perhaps jump up towards the top of the charts and maybe get himself a pole position for tonight's event. Had to go back to the pits and re-rack and try again. So considering the fact there's 6.5 minutes to go, you got to figure it's going to take about 1.5 minutes plus, maybe even close to 2 minutes when you're on a warm-up lap here to get back out and get to the line. So you're running out of opportunities to make mistakes in this session if you want enough time to regroup and try again, like Mikkel Rudebusch is doing here, who holds down the 5th spot. With about 6 minutes to go, let's take this opportunity and thank some of the league partners who helped make this series possible, including a number of the incentives and prizes that are up for grabs for these racers here tonight. A lot more on the line than just pride, one of which is Benke Cinematography. That's Damian Benke, who's a competitor in this series. Have not seen him the last couple of races, but a huge supporter of this Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. Damian Benke is the man behind Benke Cinematography, and he looks to provide the most realistic photographs on iRacing, and proud to be a partner of this GT3 series. We also have liveries by Sarah Rabb, who has been very quick the last few weeks, has Sarah. A lot of fun to watch. She's in tonight's racing action as well, currently rounding out our top 10 on the timing and scoring charts. And with graphic design experience for over 7 years and awards at the local, state, and national level, Sarah Rabb is committed to making sure your next livery or logo is a masterpiece. And that is one of the incentives they have up for grabs for some of our top finishers in the amateur and pro category for 2021. So thanks to Sarah Rabb for throwing that up for those drivers as well. And Tam Livery, as artist Kurt Stan Kanya has been a designer for the past 14 years. And by utilizing UI Designer, he has that on his resume, and this past year decided to take this skill set at creating a kind of iRacing livery and suit designs that are certainly one of a kind. He has over hundreds of satisfied customers, including some of iRacing's biggest names, and his success story continues to write itself. So check out his work at Tam Livery, another one of the league partners for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. Under 5 minutes to go, and it's last week winner Beats, who is still the quickest in qualifying.
Yeah, exactly. Chris Beats is still trying to push to pursue to beat his actual time, but unfortunately he keeps invalidating his laps. I just was watching him, and he's pushing absolutely every inch of the racetrack that he can to try to extract even more time. But unfortunately, the last 3 laps have been invalidated for him. Brady Lubnow also trying. Jesse Webb was making a lot of mistakes. I saw him making a mistake at the corkscrew, unfortunately dipping a wheel on the exit of the corkscrew, and that can cause this car to spin. Obviously, you don't have ABS to stop you from going to the wall. So, you know, if you're unlucky enough to be going fast, you're going to be hitting the wall. But as you can see now, he does it perfectly, hitting both apexes as he heads into the final part of his lap. So we're going to have to wait and see if he's improving, and is he improving enough to grab pole? He's flashing his lights to the Mercedes ahead of him, so, you know, he can allow him to go. There we go. So let's see as he heads into the final corner.
Webb's running out of chances here. If he elects to stay on track and keeps it clean, he may only have 2 more shots to try to knock Chris Beats off the pole. He's going to thunder his way to the start-finish line here. Webb is going to remain 4th for the time being as he comes through turn number 1. A flat-out bend that leads up to this hard left-handed corner at the Andretti hairpin. A little bit of clear track ahead of Webb, so he's going to have at least 1, maybe 2 more shots at it. If he's able to keep the car on course. But Chris Beats is going to drop that mark even lower. How about a 1-minute 20.418 lap time, 0.3 of a second clear of the field? Perhaps after last week's battle with Webb, maybe a shift in momentum is starting to take place here with these two, as Beats is starting to really kick up the notch a little bit. And we saw similar performance out of Jesse Webb. There's a car in trouble just in front of him there. They come through that portion of the racetrack. That is the 177 of Mick Blue, who's in a precarious position, perpendicular to the track. But if we think back to Spa, one of the races that Jesse Webb was able to capture top honors on, in fact, that was the last time he went to victory lane 2 races ago. This story was kind of similar. Dominant in qualifying, clear of the field by a number of 10ths of a second, and parlayed it into a dominating performance at Spa. I don't believe he lost the lead even through the exchange of green flag pit stops. So maybe that's the kind of performance we're starting to see out of Chris Beats here tonight. And Mikel Rudebusch, again, up towards the front of the running order here. Currently 2nd quickest, with Lubnow 3rd. But this may be exactly what Beats is trying to put together for the latter portion of this season. And the field is running out of opportunities to take him off the top of this timing and scoring chart.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Beats wants to come back to championship, right now he has 2 cars between him and Jesse Webb. He has obviously Mikel Rudebusch and Brady Lubnow, and if he can keep this lap time, you know, if he can keep going 1, 2, 3 tenths of a lap faster than those guys behind and keep them ahead of Jesse Webb, that's going to be perfect for his weekend, essentially, for this race, because he can not only get this win, you know, and establish his dominance on certain circuits, but he also can extract the most amount of points for himself and make sure that Jesse Webb cannot get close enough to him so he can pretty much minimize the damage.
And as we've learned in practice, you could pretty much not want to wait until the very last second in order to make something happen, as we saw Mikel Rudebusch do towards the tail end of practice. So we've got about less than 55 seconds to go. So you pretty much got to be on track by this point, or at least halfway through your warm-up lap if you're coming out of the pit lane, if you want a shot at getting another flyer in. Beats, Ruderbush, Lubenow, your top three, and that's overcooking it there, and a hard crash off the corner. That was car number 77 who just had an incident there and got into the wall relatively hard while trying to push the envelope, and that's actually Brady Lubenow. I said 77, it's actually the number 11, and he's going to try to get another run at this here. I don't think he's going to have enough time. We're showing 20 seconds left, and he's exiting the pits here towards turn number 1, so that may have been Lubenau's last shot to try to improve on his lap. We now look at Brunnemer, who rounds out the top 5. Can he close up the 0.4 of a second that he needs in order to try to take the pole?
Well, we're going to have to wait and see. He took a lot of grass on the exit of the corkscrew. That could be dangerous. Is he going to hit the apex on turn 9? Yes, he does. Now he only has to he has to absolutely nail this circuit at the end part. You can see there he's taking another bit of gravel. That's not good. That's going to slow him way down as he heads into the final corner, turn 11. He's going to stretch it to the absolute limit. Be careful not to invalidate the lap. And now, is he going to cross the line and improve his lap time? He does a 120.6 and he goes P2, stealing the front row spot from Mikael Ruderbush, and most importantly, dropping Jesse Webb down to P5.
Yeah, so what a drive by Brunnemer. He was clearly saving the best for last as he got up within 0.2 of a second of Beats, as there are a handful of cars still on the racetrack trying to see if they could improve on their lap time. Now, here's Lubenow. Not sure if he got to the line in time before he was able to get a flyer in here. Looks like he's not going to be able to improve as the checker flag flies on the session for him. Currently scored in 4th position if nobody else could creep up there into the top 5 spots. But nevertheless, a strong performance by Lubenow, who is going to end this session hopefully up in the top 5. A few more cars like Alexander King, who's been starting to catch his stride towards the midway portion of the season, currently rounding out your top 10. And there's Alan Roth, the Miracle, who's got all his fans watching for him tonight. Coming to the line, currently 24th. We'll see if he can pick it up from this spot here at the stripe. Looks as though 24th is unofficially where Alan Roth will remain. Nobody thus far has had anything for Chris Beats. His lap of record, a 1 minute, 22nd, 0.417. And we see Lubenow here still on track. I believe he's just trying to take advantage of this track time all the way down to the final few seconds because we saw him come to the stripe here once the time had expired. So it looks like it is going to be the 2-time winner from Imola and Chris Beats, who's going to have the pole here tonight for our 6th race of 2021 for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. And with that, we will shift on over now to our starting grid for tonight's main event. Here with Beats having the pole, Brunnemer going to start outside of row number 1 in 2nd spot. Back to row number 2 is where you'll find Mikael Ruderbush. Has been very fast so far here tonight. And Brady Lubenow takes you through your front 2 rows. 5th starting positions where you'll find Jesse Webb, the point leader, who has the points lead by 17 markers over the pole sitter, and John Wittendorf's going to start at the outside in car 24 in 6th. Inside of row number 4 is where you'll find Sarah Rabb. What a great qualifying effort for Sarah. She was 7th fastest with Christian Gerges on the outside in the 151 in 8th. And rounding out your top 10 starters for tonight's race at Laguna Seca, Sven Hartman, who got up into the top 10 there late in the session, and Alexander King, your top 10.
Starting off from the inside line in P11, we have Spencer Vick on the number 100 car. Right alongside him, Jackson Lowry starting in P12. James Hansen, the number 1 car, is going to start on the inside line in P13. Right alongside the number 108 of Trevor Anderson. Starting in P15, we have Corey Peters, and right alongside him, Wade Hayes. Mick Blue is going to be starting off in P17 on the inside line, and right on the outside, the number 64 of BC Voigt. Alex Trevor is going to be starting off in P19, and riding off row number 10 on the outside, Ryan Coulter on the number 110.
Drivers who just missed out on the top 20 spot. Jimmy Allen's going to line up in 21st spot in car 17. Gavin Cohn in the 29 takes you to the outside of row number 11. Derek Carboni, 23rd. Alan Roth, we saw him come to the stripe in 24th spot. He's going to be bringing the 126th car to the green outside of row 12. Michael Delasalo in the 114 is 25th, and the 166 of Justin Mikhaila, 26th. Tyler Langenberg in the 191 is 27. 28th is going to be John McClintock. And your top 30 starters will take you back to Patrick Herring and David Flanagan back to the 30th position.
Starting off in P31 on the 31st position is going to be George Tachek. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that wrong. Jason Frisk is going to be starting on 32nd place, and on last place with no time set on the board, Randall Ayers, hoping to, I'm sure he's going to hope to do a recovery race tonight.
Thanks a lot, JP, for helping us out there. And that's a rite of passage, trying to get Mr. Tachek's name correct. We've all been through that, and it takes some time, my friend. So no worries there on that one. We're going to see a full pace lap here, so to give these drivers one more opportunity to get a look at this racing venue before they attack it for 60 minutes total for this event, with Chris Beach trying to go back-to-back in the win column. But a number of other drivers are trying to break through and grab a victory for the first time this season. As a matter of fact, all the drivers up in the top 4, except for the pole sitter, are looking for their first win of the season. Brunnemer, Rudebusch, Lubenow take you back to those first 2 rows as we are a half a lap away from the green flag.
This is going to be the last opportunity that these drivers have to warm up the tires, obviously warm up themselves, get themselves hyped up for the racetrack, you know, just calm their nerves down, because, you know, after an intense qualifying session, especially for Chris Brunnemer, putting an incredible lap right at the end, you know, the nerves are high, the heartbeat, I'm sure, is racing. So right now they have to get all of that calmed down. They have around like 2 minutes, 2 minutes and 30, due to the speed of the pace car, to get it calmed down, to get it under control and focus on the start of the race, because right now it's going to be the most important part of the race, because due to how hard it is to overtake here, getting a proper start and getting a good position from lap 1 is going to be essential for the rest of the race.
So as the field comes down the corkscrew for the last time under pace speeds, we could expect one pit stop at some point in this race with the 75% fuel fill. A lot of times we see that well into the second half of this race, but strategy will be aplenty throughout this heavily populated field of 33 cars that is getting set to come to the line to kick off what for many is a hometown race. The Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, obviously a West Coast-based endeavor, and they are going to be coming to green here at the virtual WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. The 6th race of 2021 is green, and your pole sitter, Chris Beats, is gone. He's got a clear and healthy lead up to the Andretti hairpin for the first time, while we're side by side for second. Rudebusch on the bottom, Brunnemer outside, trying to take that second spot away, and they're going to continue to battle for that spot while everybody tries to survive the first 3 corners on lap 1.
Exactly. Jesse Webb got a perfect jump. Is already up into P4 and looks like he might be challenging for P3 at turn 5. Right now he looks a bit too far away, but he may dive may happen. You can see there he looking to the inside. Is he gonna dive? He puts the nose in, but he's not close enough to make enough of a challenge to the Lamborghini of Michael Rudebusch, who actually started in P3 and is gonna keep his position after getting a great start. It looks like on the back end of the grid, looks like we don't have any collisions. Everybody seems to be going perfectly well. Just as I mentioned that we have a big crash. Corey Peters. Oh, we have a massive tangle of cars going. We have at least 3 cars on the gravel, 2 Lamborghinis. You can see there Jimmy Allen, Mick Blue, all of them involved in a very big crash right after the kink.
We saw Alexander King was one of the cars that got caught up in an opening lap incident. Corey Peters also got run off track. A lot of drivers going off-roading through the corkscrew for the first time as everybody tries to find their rhythm early in this race. Also, it appears as though Jesse Webb may have lost that 3rd spot that he held momentarily. He's still running in 4th position while Tyler Langenberg is trying to get his car righted. He started in 27, picked up 1 spot thus far in the BMW as we jump up here to a battle closer up towards the front of the pack as Wade Hayes has tried to inch his way up towards the top 10. He's looking down low, got a car up to his outside momentarily off the Andretti hairpin, while Chris Beats was able to open up a 1.5 second advantage at the conclusion of lap 1. So very interesting how when we begin these races under a number of circumstances, they're relatively clean for the GT3 drivers. And today it seems as though there was a lot of conflict and contact in this opening lap. And we're going to go back and take a look at it. So we're watching, that's Chris Brunnemer we see for the time being. And the wreck happens behind. Here's Corey Peters in one of the Lambos in the field. And we believe this contact is going to start up here with him by the corkscrew. So this is coming in under braking. It looks as though, there was contact in front of him, and Peters ended up door slamming, and I think that's Mick Blue who went flying. and a number of cars involved, including that of James Hansen, who was off to the side with major damage. Hansen was top 5 in points coming into tonight's race and caught up in an incident there on the Ray Hall Straight. I misspoke earlier, said that was coming through the corkscrew. That was actually on the approach through turn 6 down the Ray Hall Straight towards the corkscrew. And we're going to go on board with Hansen here and see what it looked like from his perspective.
You can see there he just got a bit loose on the grass, you know, just overcooked, and unfortunately when he came back, absolutely no control of the car. Unfortunately, that was a Lamborghini coming at full speed, and that was an unfortunate T-bone. And that was just unlucky, you know, that's just lap 1. The car is heavy, you just take a bit too much speed, maybe a bit too cautious through turn 6, and unfortunately he just ran wide, and at that point, you know, you just have nothing to do. The car is going to lose traction. And as you can see there, just going a bit too wide, and the car behind just couldn't stop, and it's just a Constantine effect, and then just everybody got tangled. Luckily, not a lot of cars got tangled, only I think 4 of them, when you look at the whole train of cars that was coming. So I guess that everything has a good side to it.
I believe that was Wade Hayes who was just behind Hansen there when he started to try to come back up onto the racing surface and spun broadside in front of the path of Peters, and that was some pretty significant contact. Fortunately for those drivers, there's still a lot of time left in this race where they can make up some of the gap that they had lost, and we saw Langenberg there off pace a little bit as he was trying to avoid the carnage. So an opening lap mishap that catches about 4 drivers out. A lot of them able to continue on, but so far nothing has slowed the efforts of Chris Beets. As a matter of fact, he has nearly doubled his advantage of over 1 second as we have a car coming down to the pit area in Spencer Vick. He is the highest scored driver in the amateur sector of the points. And what we mean by that is when you take a look at the point standings, they're broken up into 2 different categories, the pros and the amateurs. The point standings are a single effort. In other words, they're all being calculated and tabulated the same, but they are ranked by their I rating. So when it comes to the amateurs who are in a certain range of I rating category, Spencer Vick is the best of that group. Everybody else, though, ahead of him is Vick is 13th in the overall standings. Everybody from 12th all the way up to the points leader are currently ranked in the pro category. The second closest amateur in competition is Justin McKayla, and that is who Vick is going to be competing against here as far as the amateur class. There are some separate prizes that are up for grabs for those top runners as well. So right now, though, a rough start for Vick, who's on pit road early, but we got a great fight for position materializing here with Brady Lubenow, John Wittendorf, and that's Jesse Webb about 3 car lengths ahead of Lubenow, who has not been able to close up to the front of the pack like I think we would have thought of there, JP.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like he's struggling a bit with the Audi. I was just looking at him on turn 11. He completely missed the apex, allowed Brady Lubenow to get very close, but unfortunately he had to slow down, and that allowed him to be under pressure from John Wittendorf, who's going to try to go all the way around the outside. That's a brave move. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the grip on the outside just yet, and unfortunately has to back out. But from the points leader, Jesse Webb, not fighting for position, not being able to close up on Mikael Rudebusch, who is actually putting pressure on Chris Brunnemer, you know, that's kind of surprising. And with all of that happening, the leader, Chris Beets, just pulling away, you know, all the way at nearly a 3-second gap. And, you know, Jesse Webb has to pull himself together, I guess. Just, you know, just find a pace and put some pressure on the cars ahead so he can actually try to close down the leader.
Well, I'll tell you what, one of the reasons why we're hyping up the fact that Webb is running in the 4th position is because, yes, we've mentioned many times as we look out the rear wing there momentarily of Chris Beets' car, but we mentioned many times that Beets and Webb have pretty much hogged up all the victories so far this season. Webb with 3, Beets with 2. But the sidebar to that story is that neither driver has finished worse than 2nd. If they did not win, they came home runner-up. So this is the first time, potentially, that we could see a race come to a conclusion if Jesse Webb is not able to find something here. Long way to go, though. We're only 7 minutes into a 60-minute affair. So if Webb is unable to climb up towards one of those top 2 positions in the running order here and Beets stay up in the front 2, it would be the first time all season that those 2 drivers did not occupy the top 2 spots when the checkered flag flies. So that's why we're kind of labeling this as such a big surprise, is not just because of the fact he's the points leader, it's because those 2 have been that superior to kick off this season. But right now, Chris Brunnemer and Mikael Rudebusch mining the gap back to Webb in that 4th spot. And Brady Lubenow has also been relatively quick as he rounds out your top 5.
Yeah, exactly. Spencer Vick, the points leader for the amateur class, unfortunately unfortunately, is not going to finish the race, I guess, due to the massive damage that he sustained on his Audi. And just as you were mentioning, Brady Lubinow, he got actually overtaken by John Winterdorf as they head into the kink of turn 6. John Winterdorf actually got a great run on him on turn 5, if I'm not mistaken, and got the position. Now we're gonna have to wait and see if John Winterdorf can actually put pressure on the points leader. He has, I guess, a 1 second gap to him, but with Jesse Webb not catching up the guys ahead, that's definitely gonna allow John Winterdorf, if he's not put under too much pressure, he can definitely catch him.
So Wittendorf trying to capitalize here as he's got a bit of a run. Now we're on board with Sven Hartman, who started 9th, +2 so far in this race. Done a great job so far to methodically try to work his way further forward, and may not be done yet. In fact, that is just up ahead of him. Lubinow and Wittendorf are battling for that final spot in the top 5. So Hartman having a good run so far here tonight as well. We talk about some drivers who are trying to better themselves in the points. We were talking about Spencer Vick, who was the highest running amateur driver in the field. Believe it or not, Hartman too carries that amateur labeling to his name this season. Again, only based on iRating, not based on necessary racing resumes or success. So even though that has its own formula that is used to tabulate iRating, it still matters as far as how, I would say, pretty much how talented and how deep this field is. Hartman comes into tonight's race all the way back in 19th place in the standings. As a matter of fact, his best finish this year was last time out at Imola. Actually, it was at Detroit. Imola, he had 14th. Detroit, he finished 13th. So not only looking for his first top 10 of the season, but maybe his first top 5 or more if Hartman can continue his charge up the running order. Again, currently scored in 7th, but within striking distance of Lubinow and Wittendorf as they come up onto the main straightaway.
Exactly, and at this point in time, they can actually start thinking about strategy. If you cannot overtake on track, why not try it on pit road? Trying to save fuel, lift and coast a bit more than your opponents. Obviously, minding the gap and staying the slipstream, that can obviously allow you to take less fuel. That means spending less time stopped. And that can allow you not only to get a few tenths of a second over your rival, but actually maybe jump him. Obviously, a few drivers are going to be thinking about it. Obviously, if you cannot overtake on track, as you can see, probably, I guess, Mikael Rudebusch could be thinking about that. Obviously, only 10 minutes, 11 minutes into the race. But, a 1 hour sprint race, you obviously have to have the strategy laid up way before the race, but you have to be able to adapt during the race. So it's going to be interesting to see what these top drivers can do, because every single one of them is stuck in a train. And, well, if they can do something interesting, I'm all up for it.
Well, we go on board here and watch this battle continue on for the second spot with Mikael Rudebusch trying to close up. Let's take this opportunity early in this race while Chris Beats continues to navigate a 3.5-second lead to thank some of our partners here at Pit Stop TV. And we'll start it off with our friends at Tucson Sound Art. Now, Valentine's Day is less than a week away, but fortunately there is still time for perhaps one of the best gift ideas that you could find. And at Tucson Sound Art, it's your picture, your music. You pick any image that you want, could be friend, family, a loved one, and you send it on over to our friends at Tucson Sound Art, and they will create a custom and beautiful, high-quality canvas with a built-in Bluetooth speaker that is equipped with sound art, because then you get the best of both worlds. Visit TucsonSoundArt.com for more information. And here's the best part. They're such a good partner that they've offered up a promo code for you viewers to be able to utilize for 10% off your item at checkout. That promo code, PitStopTV, all one word, at our friends at Tucson Sound Art. Again, TucsonSoundArt.com for more. We also want to thank Race Pace, who is the newest partner of Pit Stop TV. And if you ever wish that you could have a race engineer basically on speed dial, now with Race Pace, you can. They actually have a driver development service and setup shop all in one. You can work with Tyler, who's the man behind Race Pace, and he's a real-world race engineer to help step up your game before your next race. So if you're somebody who's competing in a GT3 category like our drivers here tonight, perhaps some of the big oval series that are kicking off at Daytona this week, whatever the case may be, you could give your call to Race Pace, and they will do everything they can to help you pick up the pace with Race Pace. We also want to thank Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine. Talked about Valentine's Day being right around the corner. That's another opportunity to gift a family member or loved one for such an occasion, because when it comes to your appearance, you truly deserve the best care that money can buy. And with that, Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, the owner, and Ashley Bullier, a certified micropigmentation specialist, provides safe and personalized services. Contact Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine at permanentmakeupinmaine.com, one word. And they also have their phone number available on their social media outlets as well. But again, permanentmakeupinmaine.com for more. And you can call to book your consultation today. And finally, we want to thank Whiplash Media, who is the parent organization to Pit Stop TV. And Whiplash Media specializes in various sim racing resources, whether it be paint schemes, stream overlays, the iRacing camera packs that you see on our broadcast here tonight, and so much more. Whiplash is also working on its presence in real racing, offering services such as photography, social media management, and public relations. Head on over to whiplash-media.com for more information. And a huge thanks goes out to all of our partners, as well as the partners of the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. It is because of all of them we have the ability to bring you the sights and sounds of one of the most entertaining road racing leagues on the sim. And it is the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series tonight, their 6th race of 10 on the season, with Chris Beads continuing to hold it down at the front of the pack.
Yeah, exactly, and as we look towards the back end on the grid, fighting for P11, we have a great battle between Gavin Cohn and Sarah Rabb, with Wade Hayes obviously on the back end. They have been going side by side for pretty much all the lap. You know, Sarah has been trying to dive down the inside of turn 1 and heading into the corkscrew, but you know, Gavin Cohn was having none of it as they head in pretty close. You can see now Gavin Cohn making a small mistake, going a bit too wide. That's allowing Sarah to get closer and closer, but not close enough to put the nose of the car to force him to leave her enough room on the inside. So this is definitely another battle to wait and see, as Wade Hayes also on the back end of this battle, waiting for something to happen.
Looking out the back bumper here of Gavin Cohn, as you are watching a battle for position materialize here through one of the left-handers on this layout. Cohn is trying to fend off Sarah Rabb, who actually lost a couple of spots in the opening laps of this race. Sarah had one of her best qualifying runs of the season. Started 7th, now back to 12th. Fortunately, though, able to avoid some of the contact that happened in and around her machine. She's got a big run here as they drop downhill, and you can see just how much these cars are bouncing their way down the corkscrew. In excess of 4.5-story drop as Rabb has a look to the inside through the left-hander here off of turn number 9, has to drop back in line. But a great battle starting to materialize here between Cohn, Rabb, and Wade Hayes, who's rebounded nicely. Rabb is going to stick it up the inside to the final corner and take that spot away. And the car that is lurking just behind in the BMW, Wade Hayes, he was involved in that opening lap incident, kind of stabilized there in about the 13th spot. So we'll see if Hayes can continue to move further forward. But Rabb is now back up to the 11th spot, 1 spot shy of the top 10.
Exactly, that was a great move for her. She was lining up that move for a long time. Gavin Cohn didn't protect on the inside line of turn 11. That's a prime overtaking opportunity, since it's such a 90-degree corner, so it's easy to dive down the inside. And lucky for her, she managed to get it through, and she looks to be quicker than Gavin Cohn. So let's see if she can hunt down Trevor Anderson and fight for that P10, the top 10 spot.
So we're about a quarter of the way through this race, and there's your points leader in Jesse Webb, who continues to be, we'll use the term mired lightly, but mired back and forth. Within striking distance, though, of that battle for second just in front of him. And let's tip our cap as we go on board with John Wittendorf here down the main straightaway. Let's tip our cap, though, to Mikkel Ruderbusch. I mean, do you want to talk about somebody whose season has been turbulent? And we say that with all due respect. Ruderbusch, who has shown flashes of brilliance. He was a front-running finisher, a top 10 points finisher last season out. Ruderbusch, though, just could not shake the bad luck in a number of races, some of which were just wrong place, wrong time. Others, though, may have been of his own doing, maybe overcooking the corner and losing the back end of the race car on a couple of occasions. But the pace has been there at times. 14th in the standings, finally got a top 5 at Belle Isle in Detroit, but that was his only top 10 finish. I mean, 20th at Donington, 35th at Road America, and then just outside the top 10 at Spa and Imola. This is by far the best run that Ruderbusch has had all season, vying for a podium, vying for his second top 10, second top 5 finish, that would be, as a matter of fact, or first top 5 finish, I should say, for Ruderbusch. but he has got a lot of pressure from the point leader just behind the Jesse Webb, who appears that he has now decided it's time to go.
Exactly. Now Jesse Webb is applying a lot of pressure to Mikael Rudebusch. You can see that now Mikael has actually dropped a bit to Chris Brennemer. He was right alongside the bumper as they head into lap 13, but right now, he looks like he dropped a bit. But, he just seems to catch on the final part of the circuit. Not close enough to make a move, but definitely close enough, far away from Jesse Webb to be able to protect his podium position. And obviously, this could be a turning point if you can fend off the leader, the points leader. Oh, just as we mentioned, that a small mistake going a bit too wide on the braking. But if you can fend off and avoid doing mistakes that might end up ruining not only your race but the other guys' races, that could be a turning point for him in the championship, and hopefully we can see more of him on these top spots.
And what a great battle this is. This is for second, third, fourth, and fifth, respectively. All 4 cars in a line there on your screen. Everybody in the top 5, minus your leader, Chris Beets, who's broken out to over a 5.3-second lead. But we saw Rudebusch there really send it in through the Andretti hairpin. A little bit of a mistake there for sure. Nearly got into the backside of Brunnemer, who's trying to hold on to that second spot. And even though all the talk has been about the top 2 in points, Brunnemer's having a really strong season himself. He was caught up in an early incident at the season opener in Donington Park, but since then he's had no finish worse than 5th. A pair of podium finishes he has, or I should say 1 podium finish at Road America, a pair of 4th place finishes at Detroit and Spa, and then of course we go on to Imola where we rounded out our top 5 there as well. So even though we're tipping our caps to the performances we've seen out of Beets and Webb, Brunnemer's name surely needs to be added to that list of drivers as well, and he's on pace for what could be his best finish of the season. But he's got some pressure from behind, as now John Wittendorf may be the fastest driver in this 4-car group. He's caught the backside of Webb through turn 2.
Yeah, exactly. Just as we might see Mikael Rudebusch finishing on his best position so far this season, we could see Jesse Webb finishing on his worst position so far in the season. Right now fighting for essentially P2, obviously, but getting pressure all the way down from 5th place. So this race could end up on obviously where he's used to finishing either 1st or 2nd, or he could finish all the way where is I guess a dark spot for him, an unknown so far this season, down in 5th place. So it's definitely a race, I guess a new place for a lot of drivers, and hopefully we can see a nice shakeup of things as this battle for second only keeps developing and developing, and I'm anxious to see an overtake soon.
As they come down the corkscrew again, it is Webb trying to close up all that he can, with right now Wittendorf appearing to have one of the better cars, about 2 car lengths off of Webb there, as we now look high above this beautiful and scenic venue here that is just outside of Monterey in California. Just an absolutely incredible racing facility is Laguna Seca, and we mentioned it being a favorite for so many. Many call it a roller coaster of a ride just because of the corkscrew in its own right, but this is just an incredible place, and certainly right in the heart of what this series is built upon. If you're with us on the East Coast, you'll notice the 10 p.m. start times, because this is a Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. A lot of these drivers based out of the West Coast. Even though they travel, and this 10-race slate is made up of a number of top-tier international venues, this track, though, specifically, is truly in the backyard of a number of these drivers who registered to compete in this series. So, even though it's on a virtual spectrum, it is a bit of a hometown race for these drivers, and it may mean a little bit more for them to capture top honors at a track like WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. And that's why we're seeing the intense fighting here for second on back kind of be sustained for a long period of time. We're about just over about 8 minutes from the halfway point in this race, and that's pretty much when we're going to open up the conversation as far as pit stops. And if Imola was any indication, they waited rather late. It was the final third of the race with under 20 minutes to go that we saw drivers pit for fuel. So we'll see if that same strategy is going to be followed by our front runners, or if somebody's going to try to do something different in order to erase that lead that has now been built up by Chris Beets in excess of 5.5 seconds, while second, third, fourth, and fifth remain nose to tail at the end of the front straightaway.
Yeah, exactly. By the looks of things, none of these drivers in the top 5 are thinking about fuel strategies right now. They're all going for all-out pace because none of them are lifting and coasting. So it's definitely going to be very close on pit entry and pit exit on the times. It's definitely going to be about maximizing both of those, the entry and the exit, to make sure you get the most amount of time. And, it's being interesting to see all of these drivers, just pushing to the absolute limit. John Wintendorf seems to be very, very strong on the final part of the circuit, but just can't seem to get turn 10 quite hooked up enough to get a run down into P11. Jesse Webb keeps getting closer to Mikael Rudebusch, but can't get close enough to make a dive. And the same goes, Mikael just getting closer and closer to Chris Brunnemer, but on the wrong parts of the circuit where it's impossible to overtake.
And now we'll start to see where some drivers are going to push the envelope a little bit, getting into the corners, and that's where you open the door for mistakes. We saw Rudebusch get a little bit later on the brakes there as they came to the corkscrew that time and closed up to the back bumper of Brunnemer, but could not find an avenue to get by. He's now going to peek down to the inside, fill up that mirror a little bit on Brunnemer. Shirley wasn't close enough to try to make a pass, and that might have messed up his exit off of that final corner at turn 11 and up onto this main straightaway. That's going to give a bit of a slipstream run here to Jesse Webb. We'll see if he'll be close enough to pull out and try to make a move. He's going to swing to the outside of the Andretti hairpin, and the fight for third is on. Webb tried to make an incredible pass to the outside. He's got it done. Webb up to third.
Incredible commitment under braking. That was amazing to see, just swing the car down to the inside, pinch Mikael Rudebusch on the apex so he can't force him off the track, and made the move clean. So Mikael, after trying to make an overtake for second place, unfortunately is going to be dropping all the way down to fourth. So, just amazing move, and that's what we see from the points leader, just experience. But right now he got a bit on the grass. Is that going to compromise his exit out of turn 6? Doesn't look like it, as they both had, as Mikael Rudebusch now it's extremely close. He might be looking down the inside on the corkscrew, but the points leader just defends. That's the kind of experience that we see. Points leader just spotted the moment, knew he had to go for the move, otherwise it could have been too late, and did the move and executed it to perfection.
Yeah, and we saw a similar mistake earlier in the race by another competitor where all four wheels got off there on the exit of one of those left-handers at turn 5. And, we've seen how that could be absolutely disastrous. And, Webb was able to get off the power enough to avoid that car from snapping sideways on him as we look out the back bumper of his Audi. But he was mindful enough to not lose enough momentum to give up the spot that he had worked so hard to take, to move up into third position to get around Rudebusch. And how about Brady Lubenow? He's caught these drivers. He's that fourth car there in line, or I should say third in line from the back bumper of Jesse Webb's machine. Lubenow started a little bit further up in the running order. He started fourth, but he has caught John Wittendorf. Just as I say that, he runs a little bit wide there on corner exit, loses some ground. But Lubenow, who had a bit of a scare earlier in this race, was close to some of the bumping and banging that went on to kick things off, now starting to charge up and battle for a top 5 spot. And it allows us a chance real quick to do a little bit of housekeeping. So some of the drivers who were not so fortunate at the start of this race, James Hansen is out of this thing. He went out very early in this race, currently shotgun on the field in 33rd. Spencer Vick, the highest running amateur in points, out of this race as well. Alex Trevor has just disconnected from the server, back at 31st. Tyler Langenberg, multiple laps down, as is Michael Della Sala. Mick Blue and John McClintock, each 1 lap down, still running in this race, though, 28th and 27th respectively. And we have 26 cars that remain on the lead lap as we inch closer to the halfway point. And this fight for fourth continues to be the best we've got going towards the front of the field.
Yeah, exactly. This battle is absolutely everything that Brady Lubenow and Sven Hartman want, because as soon as cars start going side by side, they're obviously going to lose a lot of time because they can't take the optimal speed through the apex, and therefore that's going to slow them down, and that allows those drivers to catch up, just hitting the apex, just carrying the normal amount of speed. That's going to allow them to get closer and closer, and that's going to allow us to watch more and more cars fighting for the same position, as right now it seems like Jesse Webb is catching up to Chris Brunnemer slowly but surely, and Mikael Rudebusch can't seem to find the pace that he had beforehand, because he was fighting with Chris, but unfortunately he can't seem to get close to Jesse right now, and he's under a lot of pressure from John Wintendorf, as we now head into a very, very important part of the race where we have to start seeing traffic management through lap traffic. I was looking at Chris Beats, and he was losing a bit of time, a few laps, losing 4 or 5 tenths of a second due to lapped cars, and that's going to be a major factor. As you can see now, Chris Beats lapping a BMW going down the inside. You have to be brave, but you also have to be smart, because anything happens, you can be out of the race. So this is definitely going to be very interesting for the battles that we were just watching, especially for P2 and P4 at this moment.
See, as they come up onto the front straightaway, the sun right in the eyes of these drivers in the cockpit of their race cars, as Beats is going to come to the line here, and lap traffic continues to be a factor, and that lead isn't fact coming down. It's a great point there, JP. The traffic, even though a lot of them being very courteous, Beats, though, has to be a little bit cautious when he navigates his way around these lap vehicles. And it is dropping back here to this fight. And wonder what would happen if Jesse Webb was able to get around Brunnermer, if he would be a little more aggressive as far as trying to close up that margin as we approach the evident pit stops. And, you know, we talked about the handling of the Kel Ruderbusch's car, perhaps that car changing as far as the handling characteristics due to the fact that the fuel load is starting to burn off. And also we are coming up on about the halfway point of this race. So the track conditions may be changing a little bit, and Ruderbusch doing all he can to hang on to that 4th position for the time being. But now we're starting to see these drivers running 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and so on, navigate the same lap traffic that hindered Chris Beats momentarily and lost him a little bit of that advantage. And a lot of it also, JP, has to do with where you catch these lap vehicles. If you're coming up at the end of that Ray Hall straight to the corkscrew, and that's where you catch your lap traffic, it's definitely going to hurt. Even this point right here that these drivers are coming through turn 10, Brunnermer is going to move that car aside, and that's going to check him up. Here comes Webb down low for 2nd as the lap car got punted off to the tire barrier.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, you know, lap traffic can be Jesse's Webb best friend, but it also can be his worst friend, as, you know, unfortunately Chris Brunnermer unfortunately has lost P2 due to lap traffic. As you can see now, he gets extremely close to the back end of Jesse Webb as he tries to fight back for his 2nd place spot. But that's unfortunate for him, you know, he caught traffic on the absolutely worst part of the racetrack, because that's just fast flowing left and right handers. You know, you can't really get out of the way without throwing your car into the gravel trap. And that, unfortunately for Chris, cost him P2, and unfortunately made him crash into a lapped car. I'm not pretty sure which lapped car it was, but, you know, that's unfortunate for both parties, essentially. That was Michael De La Sala, who unfortunately, I'm pretty sure DNF'd after that crash.
I'm going to go back and take a look at it. This was the battle for 2nd. They were coming up here on the exit of turn number 10. With Brunnermer and Webb just behind. We're watching De La Sala here, who was a lap down. You know, that looked like a situation where perhaps De La Sala was in the process of moving out of the way, or maybe even coming towards the pits, because the speed differential between those two cars was just so noticeable for the time being. I think he was going to try to yield to drivers left, allow the front runners by, and just the two just did not happen to link up there in time. And, you know, for De La Sala, a tough break here. We'll get a good idea on board here with Brunnermer. Yeah, that was bizarre there. And fortunately for Brunnermer, you know, even though it did cost him a position, that could have been much, much worse if he zigged and the other car zagged or something. But nevertheless, a close call there for some of the front runners, and a change up towards the front of the pack as Jesse Webb has moved into 2nd. But the margin has grown to 8.3 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Just as we mentioned that Chris Beats had lost a lot of time due to traffic and losing 5/10 per lap sometimes. You know, that battle just cost him a few seconds on one lap. You know, just taking a look at Chris Brunnermer's last lap times, you know, he was doing 121s, and then on that lap where he caught traffic, a 123.5. So over nearly 2.5 seconds lost on one lap. And obviously that wasn't the end of traffic. So that allows Chris Beats not only to run away with, I guess, a more sizable gap, and, you know, allows him to go easier on the car, not push a lot to the limit, but, you know, just makes Jesse Webb's job a lot more difficult. That, luckily for him, I guess, finds himself in a comfortable P2 spot, as Chris Brunnermer can't seem to quite match the pace of the fellow Audi driver in front of him.
And just as we say that, Chris Beats lays down a flyer. He just turned a lap in the 1 minute and 21 second bracket as Webb dips a couple of wheels off there, approaching the entrance to the Andretti hairpin at turn 2. But Beats evidently trying to respond here and open up that gap before the eventual cycle of pit stops. So we drop back here to a battle position. Here's Corey Peters. He was one of the cars that was involved in the opening lap crash, was that of Peters. And we're trying to see now how he's being able to fare his way up further forward. And what is a good position with BC Voigt that is starting to materialize here in this battle for position further down the running order. Our eyes are on some of the front runners to see if and when they will elect to make their pit stops, but there are battles all throughout the field as we still have 22 cars on the lead lap, and there are points paying positions up for grabs all throughout the running order, and Corey Peters is trying to get up there and get some more. Wow, Rudebush just had his hands full that time coming off the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. As you go down the corkscrew, is all about getting your turn in and turn out point. Turn in point absolutely nailed. If you just turn in, a meter too early, you're gonna end up hitting the grass, and that could lose the car. Luckily for Mikel, he got lucky that time. Maybe next time he might not be as lucky, but right now he's catching Chris Brunnemer. He's pretty much lapping at the same pace. Unfortunately, that lap he was 2 tenths slower. But these leaders are fighting for pretty much just tenths of a second to trying to catch each other, and John Winterdorf just keeping up with Mikel Rudebush, just not letting Mikel breathe at any given point so far this race.
And Wittendorf is still on the attack, with Brunnemer not that far up ahead of Rudebush. Again, this is third, fourth, and fifth, so a podium spot up for grabs for the time being. And Jesse Webb, since getting up into that second spot, he's not been able to break free of these three drivers. He's still only about 2 seconds ahead of this group of cars. So even second may not necessarily be solidified. And truthfully, everything is still up for grabs because that ever-important pit stop for fuel is going to be coming up here shortly. And we talk a lot about a number of these tracks and the pit exit and the pit entry and pit exit, I should say. And although some racetracks like that at Donington Park could be very difficult to navigate, here at Laguna Seca, I would say the pit entry, which you see there off to the right-hand side of your screen, there's enough room for you to dart out of the way and not get tagged on your approach to the pit entry. It's really the pit exit that these drivers have to be concerned about, because that exit line, you see the cones there on the left-hand side of the straightaway, it runs all the way through the inside of the Andretti hairpin. You see it just a little bit there until it starts to blend out on the traffic there. You saw the blue cones that outline the end of that pit exit avenue, I should say. And the reason why that's important is because that's where you're going to be most privy to get in trouble. That's a very dirty sector of the racetrack. You're going to be wanting to get back to the power if and when possible. And that's an opportunity for you to run a little bit wide, maybe get offline and maybe burp the car sideways a little bit. And I think that's going to be the one element of these pit stops that could catch some of these drivers off guard and maybe cost them some positions during the pit stop shuffle.
Yeah, not only that, but also let's not forget, that on the braking on the pit exit, it's full of grass and full of dirt. As soon as you dip a wheel of these cars under braking, under load on that part of the racetrack, you're just gonna spin out, and if you spin out and go over the white lines, you're just gonna end up getting a penalty. So quickly within a second, everything can go wrong on the pit exit. Is very, very tricky, but obviously these drivers, I'm sure they practice a lot, and they're gonna be taking that pit exit to the absolute limit. And while we're talking about the leaders, Chris Brunnemer it's seeming to match the pace of Jesse Webb, but Mikel Rudebush now is applying a lot of pressure to Chris, as now you can see now making small mistakes here and there. Mikel just seems to be getting faster and faster and more comfortable, and looks like Chris might be in trouble in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, we're going to see how this pans out in this fight for position with under 24 minutes to go in this race and a pit stop coming up. So we see that beats the leader now by over 9 seconds in what is perhaps an opportunity to be one of his most dominating performances on the season. You watch Beats here navigate his way downhill through the corkscrew here by himself. Clear traffic ahead, no pressure from behind. Webb and Brunnemer, your podium for the time being. Rudebush and Wittendorf, your top 5. Then you go back to Brady Lubenow. Sven Hartman, who's having his best run of the season. Christian Gerges, who is in 8th. Sarah Rab, still running very strong up to 9th. And rounding out your top 10, Trevor Anderson, who's been turning it on as of late. in that 10th spot. He's +5 from where he started. Started back in the 14th position, now rounding out your top 10. Just I say that, Sarah Rabbit appears, has lost that 9th spot and fallen back to 10th. And this fight for 9th position, as a matter of fact, is probably one of the closest we have on track for the time being, as Anderson runs a little bit wide, and not that far behind these two drivers is Jackson Lowry, who comes into tonight's race 5th in championship points, currently just shy of a top 10 spot, with Rab trying to get back around Anderson as they head up onto the main straightaway.
Yeah, exactly. Sarah Rabb and Trevor Anderson, they switched spot twice in one lap. Trevor Anderson, I'm pretty sure he dived down the inside of the corkscrew. Very brave move on him. And, you know, Sarah had, both of them are actually having none of it, as they're obviously fighting for P9 at this moment in time. As you can see there now, Sarah just putting pressure and pressure. Looks like she has a bit of damage on the front left quarter panel of the Lamborghini. Looks like it's a bit dented out. Might be contact between those two. We cannot tell at this point in time. But, you know, looks like they're closer than ever. Looks like they're going to have to manage now a lapped car in front of them. Let's see if that lapped car is going to allow them to pass or might slow down Trevor Anderson just a bit.
It seems to all be about where you catch the lap traffic. And there's Rab filling up the mirror there on the left-hand side of Anderson's car, maybe to try to force him into a mistake as they come through the left-handed corner at turn 5. And now up this straightaway here, getting set for the approach here for the corkscrew. I should say that was turn 6 they were coming through before they hit the Ray Hall straight. And Anderson may have caught that lap car there in a precarious spot on board with Rab, just trying to pounce. This is where Sarah's been so good. Anderson runs wide. He's going to dip the right sides off in the dirt, and Sarah Rab is going to rocket her way by on the outside as they come through turn 10 and give Sarah Rab the 9th spot back.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately for Trevor Anderson, he caught up the lap traffic in the worst place possible. Unfortunately for him, he had to give up that spot, didn't dive down the inside, and allowed her to get away with the 9th place for this moment in time. But looks like he's having none of it and might be trying to get some revenge soon. As we look back into the battle for P2, P3 and P4. Mikael Rudenbush looks like he lost a bit of contact to Chris Brunnemer, but John Winterdorf still applying a lot of pressure to the back end of the Lamborghini.
Yeah, and as we look back here from Rudenbush, he was continuing to hold down 4th, with Wittendorf not that far behind. Out the windshield, though, by just 1 second is Brunnemer, and 2 seconds up on that is Jesse Webb. So we still have about, we'll call it 4 cars, all within about 4 seconds of one another from 2nd to 6th, all vying for position here with pit stops approaching. Now at Imola last week, another one of the sprint races, we see some cars have elected to come down the pit lane this time. You see them exiting there. Looks like one of those cars may have been that of Corey Peters, who hit the pit lane. Now we've got Alan Roth, who is on the pit road. He was running in the 21st spot at the time of his pit stop and service. He's going to rejoin the pack here and come on the exit of the pit area. At Imola last week, as we got a lot of pressure starting to come here to the backside of Rudenbush from Wittendorf, it seemed as though the time that a lot of the competitors aimed for was between about the 16 and 18 minute window of time remaining in this race, as the lap car there runs wide in front of your 3rd place driver, Brunnemer, as far as the pit window. And now that we're starting to see some of these drivers blend up in front of the lead pack and lead traffic, this may be the best time to duck down to the pit lane. And now Wittendorf has Lubenow looking for a way by.
Exactly. It looks like Corey Peters was not helping a lot of the drivers, and that allowed also Sven Hardman to get into the action. So now we have a 4-car battle all the way up into P4, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, we have 4 cars battling for one position essentially. But right now is a very important time, because if you're one of these guys and you feel like you're faster, you should undercut. But at this track, obviously, if you're undercut, the track is so short that, you know, you might end up in a back in a train like this, and everybody fighting for position. No one's gonna let you by. So right now it's a very, very tricky spot for each of these drivers. You know, they might want to dip a lap before the fuel tank expires. Some of them are going to wait up until the last possible minute. It's obviously going to be interesting to see also what Jesse Webb does in response to Chris Beats. And, you know, now the strategy game is also going to pay out. It's going to be definitely interesting to see what these drivers have in hand.
And something else we have to keep line, being that, you know, these races are run with a 75% fuel fill. If you're going to pit this late in the race, you don't have to fill the tank. You can calculate and dial back the fuel number that you need and lessen your time on pit road. And we've seen drivers make a mistake, whether, you know, they're trying to make the adjustments themselves or maybe not working with the assistance of a crew chief or an in-race engineer, and they're just trying to do it themselves, and they fat finger the number a little bit and overshoot their mark, and next thing you know, they're on the pit lane for 2 to 3 seconds longer than they intended to be. And that's all the difference from starting or finishing in a podium spot and ending up outside of the top 5 for this group. So that's something else we'll have to keep our eyes on here, as we're now just under 18 minutes to go. And now we're going to start to see some of the front runners. That's Rudebush, who ducks onto the pit lane here. He's going to be one of the first drivers up towards the front of the pack to elect to come onto the pit lane, while that group was pretty much nestled in heavy traffic. And we'll see how this works out for the driver who's been top 5 all day.
Yeah, this is either going to end up in two situations. Either going to be a very smart play to get an undercut, because the drivers he was fighting were all battling for position with lap traffic. As you can see there, the Ferrari just sticking the nose down the inside. Or it can be a brilliant undercut, you know, just pulling away from everybody, maybe even getting P3 back from Chris Brunemer as he now exits the pits. It's going to be definitely interesting to see on the next few laps who's going to answer, you know, if Chris is going to answer on the very next lap, or is he just going to wait. Now it's going to become very, very interesting, the final part of this race.
So we're going to start to see the running order shuffle around a little bit here, as we are having drivers starting to hit the pit lane for their scheduled stop. We watch this driver and see when the attempt to come onto the pit lane will be an opportunity for John Wittendorf, who now that Rudebush has kind of opened up the door and come down pit road, it's allowed Wittendorf a little bit of clear track for the first time, as he's trying to close up on Brunemer, who continues to hold down that third spot. You see Chris Beets perhaps preparing to come in. There's Brunemer on the pit lane. He's going to peel off. So Brunemer's going to be the first of the top 3 to come down the pit lane. And also, judging by the lap time that was just set by Beets, that may be a preparation here, maybe trying to push the envelope before he gives up some time to come down pit road, as he just set the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, looks like Chris Beet has absolutely no intention of slowing down, just over 10-second gap to second place. That is absolutely amazing to see. You know, even with that gap, not slowing down and pushing the car to the limit on a track like this, that is very, very brave and shows a lot of confidence that he has, not only with the car, but with the track. And, you know, just hats off to the driver, you know, pulling that massive weight. It's amazing. Now we can see now Chris Brunemer on your screen, leaving pit lane, and he's going to feed off behind Jackson Lowry. And looks like he got a bit of a gap to Michael Rudebush, so I'm not pretty sure if the difference in fuel consumption to the Audi and the Lamborghini, or might be a difference in the fuel load that he took in, but that's a quite big gap between those two.
Yeah, the other car that was in that mix was that of John Wittendorf, who's yet to stop. So we'll see who perfected the right strategy here, as it looked as though that the undercut attempt by Rudebush is not going to pay off, as Brunemer is going to be able to buy some time. Now we've got some front runners coming in here as well. This is Wittendorf. He is the next car to come on to the pit lane here, and the clock is really starting to tick down. Also, you see Sven Hartman on the pit lane. Wittendorf, the first one to lead this train down. Top 2, according to my records, remain on track with under 15 minutes to go. So we're in the final quarter of this race, the final 25% or so of this race. And Chris Beets and Jesse Webb are going to try to stay on track for as long as they possibly can. And you don't want to run these things out of fuel for sure, but they're going to try to wait until the very last possible moment to come in for their bit of splash of fuel that'll get them to the end.
Yeah, exactly. So now we're going to have to wait and see who's going to be feeding off where. We can see Brady Lubenow still in the pit. No, actually, he's just leaving. As you can see now, Michael Rudebush is just behind him. Is he going to lose 2 spots? Looks like he's just going to be battling side by side with Brady Lubenow. Is he going to keep the position? Looks like he has the inside line into turn 4, but is Brady's going to break around the outside? He is. Oh, when they make contact. Unfortunately for Brady, he's going to end up on the tire barrier. Oh, he is. And that's big, big damage to the back end of that Audi.
And Rudebush has crashed as well. So it looked as though the contact there from the left front to the right rear of Brady Lubinau's car not only bit Lubinau, but it caught out Rudebush as well in a fight for a top 5 position, or what was at least going to be a top 5 spot. As they were coming off the pit lane, and Rudebush had his tires up to temperature. He's been on the racetrack for a while since his stop. Here's Lubinau trying to work the outside. They remain side by side here to the right-hander. This is where it looked as though Lubinau was trying to come down. Boy, that was the slightest touch that those two had there. May even want to chalk that one up to netcode, as it looked like it wasn't a clear punt by any means from Rudebush to the back of Lubinau. But both of those drivers suffering significant damage there, each impacting the tire wall on opposite sides of the racetrack. And we'll see how that upsets the top 5 running order.
Yeah, exactly. That was just an unfortunate touch, just one driver committing. The other one was just a bit too brave on the inside. You can see that Mikael Rudebush on the inside. Unfortunately for him, he was already, pretty much 3/4 of a car behind. Yeah, it's just an unfortunate mistake. I guess that's a racing incident, just trying to fight for the same piece of tarmac. Unfortunately for both drivers, they both are going to come out of that with more damage. Mikael Rudebush obviously now ahead of Brady Lubinau, who has a lot of damage to the back end of the Audi. And well, looks like those drivers are John Winterdorf, who is just it'll be interesting to see John and Chris going side by side in the next few laps. Hopefully no contact between those, and this is lining up to be a great finale between these two.
So right now it is still Beats at the head of the pack, and it looks as though that while we were watching those replays for the front runners, the pit stops did cycle all the way through. So Beats and Jesse Webb have come in for their service, and you see the gap is now 8.7 seconds with just about 11.5 minutes to go. Webb still in the runner-up position, a little bit more breathing room this time though, to his closest pursuer in competition in Brunnemer, who rides in third. And there you see Lubinau is going to have to come to the pit lane and try to repair the back end of that car, and this will certainly eliminate his chances for a top 10 finish. An absolutely tough break for the driver who came into tonight's racing event, trying to improve on a season that has been a bit up and down for Lubinau's standings. 29th in the championship coming into tonight's racing event. No top 10s yet on the season, caught up in numerous accidents. It looked as though tonight was going to be Lubinau's night to shine, and it looks as though it may either end on the pit lane or, at the very least, it'll be towards the tail end of the pack yet again. But heartbreaker for Lubinau, because he was so quick throughout the night, and right now finds himself well out of the top 10. So onto the main straightaway come these drivers battling for position outside the top 10 as well. BC Voigt trying to close up on Wade Hayes, who's having a good bit of a comeback here today, currently running in about the 13th spot. And Corey Peters is just behind. He too is involved in that opening lap incident with Hayes. They're trying to salvage the day, and both running up towards the top 15 for the time being.
Yeah, exactly. Corey Peters on the Lamborghini still, you can see there a lot of damage to the front left quarter panel that Lamborghini, just from the left one incident. Managing all of that damage, still putting up some pressure, shows a lot of determination from this driver. And well, looks like now he's in a bit of a tangle between BC Voigt and Wade Hayes. Looks like Wade getting a bit loose on the exit turn 6. BC not close enough to mount a challenge. But, this could be lining up again to be another exciting battle towards the end of the racetrack. Looks like it might be the closest battle outside of that John Winterdorf, Chris Brunnemer tangle between those two. So it's definitely going to be interesting. As you can see now on your screen, Chris Brunnemer now actually having to fend off from John Winterdorf. I was just looking at Chris. Looks like he still has a bit of damage on the back end of that Audi. I'm not pretty sure if this is a bit of contact that he had with a left car, or maybe when he got tangled up with Michael De La Sala, where he got a bit of contact from Jesse Webb. Looks like he's managing a bit of damage on that Audi.
Yeah, and for Beats here, it looks as though he's going to run a little bit wide on corner exit, and that's going to be an outside look coming up to turn number 11 for Wittendorf. They almost banged doors as they approach the left-hander, and what a launch off of the final corner for Wittendorf. He's going to power his way by Brunnemer for the third spot. And John Wittendorf is trying to be en route to his first podium finish of the season, but Brunnemer is having a look to try to get back by with more lap traffic ahead.
That was an amazing move by John Wittendorf. Obviously, Chris Brunnemer got a bit loose on the exit of turn 10, if I'm not mistaken, and John Wittendorf just didn't need a second invitation, just pounced around the outside, didn't even care. Chris left him in the room and he just got a way better exit, and now looks like he might be safe for that P3 spot. Obviously, he still has some traffic to manage, so it's not well and guaranteed yet, but you know, that was a fantastic move. It just showed a lot of confidence for the driver.
So we're coming up on the final 8 minutes of competition for this, the 6th race of the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series here at WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca. Coming into tonight's racing action, only 2 drivers had visited victory lane so far, and they are running in the top 2 positions, Chris Beets and Jesse Webb. Neither of these drivers have finished worse than 2nd on the 6-race campaign so far. They are holding down the top 2 spots, with Beets trying to close up the points deficit in the championship standings over Jesse Webb, who had a 17-point lead once this race got underway. Right now it is Beets, Webb, and Wittendorf, your podium. Brunnemer has been in the top 5 all night long in 4th, and Sven Hartmann having the race of his season so far, as Beets looked like he clipped the tires a little bit there. There's Sven Hartmann. We told you a little bit earlier on tonight, he's one of the drivers who races under what they dubbed to be the amateur banner. And what we say by that is, again, these drivers separated pro and amateurs by I rating. So, and there are different awards and incentives for these drivers, even though they're all being tabulated on the same points paying structure. Hartmann, though, 19th in points coming into tonight's race. His best finish of the season was 13th back in Detroit. He's looking to smash that result with a top 5 finish if he can hang on to his position here in 5th. And he may not be done yet, because that's Brunnemer, the 4th car up ahead, and Wittendorf, the 5th car up ahead, who he's trying to get up for what could be a podium finish, especially if things start to get a little bit physical here between Brunnemer and Wittendorf for 3rd.
Yeah, exactly. I was just looking at Wittendorf, and it looks like he's way better at putting pressure on the driver ahead than receiving, because he already made a few mistakes. Luckily for him, the car didn't snap on him, but looks like he might be struggling a bit with the car right now with the pressure from Chris Brunnemer and also Sven Hartmann behind him. So we're gonna have to wait and see if the driver of John Wittendorf can pull himself together and just put in some laps and drive away to secure that P3 position, or is he gonna be susceptible to those pressure moments from Chris Brunnemer behind?
It looks as though that Brunnemer was willing to send it in deep there as they came through the left-handed corner. Got right up to the rear wing that time of John Wittendorf's car, but could not do anything with it. And what an incredible view it is, though, as the sun starts to set at the virtual WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. You can see the headlights having a little bit more of a presence as these drivers navigate the final 5.5 minutes of this race. And the best battle on track, as it pretty much has been throughout the race, is for 3rd. The gap from 1st to 2nd continues to be about 8.5 seconds from Beets back to Webb. And this race here throughout the rest of the top 5 is going to be what we are going to keep our eyes on, with Rudebush running in 6th, Gerges in 7th, Sarah Rab 8th. Then we got Trevor Anderson and Jimmy Allen, your top 10, with 5 minutes to go. These drivers also taking advantage of the fact that this is going to be the last 60-minute sprint race they have for the next 2 races. There were 3 endurance races on the slate for this 2021 campaign. One of them we kicked off at Spa a couple of rounds ago. That was a race that went to the point leader in Jesse Webb. In fact, that was his last victory, as this battle for 7th begins to intensify, with Gerges and Sarah Rab fighting out for the spot in which Sarah Rab started in, 7th. She could find a way around here in this final corner, and she's having a look inside of Gerges here, hopping the curb a little bit on the bottom side of the racetrack, and they're going to drag race their way to the line.
Rinse and repeat for Sarah Rabbit, just putting the car down the inside of turn 11 and making the move stick on the inside. You know, she's very brave on the braking. You know, she was throwing the car down into turn 9. Obviously, Christian was having none of it and pushed her against the curb. But right now, obviously, allowed her to go to the inside line. She's not gonna need a second invitation. She's through, and she's back into 7th place where she started.
So what a great drive for Sarah Rabb. We mentioned she fell back to outside the top 10 and has methodically worked her way back forward. It seems as though every time that we try to tip our cap to Sarah as far as her performance on the night, we end up giving her the announcer's jinx. But last week, it was her first top 10 of the season, finished ninth. Now trying to better that by 2 spots as she continues to improve on her pace each and every week. And it's been no exception here at Laguna Seca. And with Rudebush up ahead by about 5 seconds, it may not be out of the question for her to be looking for at least one more spot, especially considering the fact that Rudebush may have a bit of a wounded race car after his contact with Lubinow earlier while battling for a top 5 position. So with 3 minutes to go, the gap at the front of the pack has stabilized at about 8.5 seconds. There's Rudebush coming past the lap car here on the main straightaway, with Sarah Rabb now on the same front stretch as Rudebush, hoping to try and close up here in this race for a spot just outside of the top 5. So Chris Beets is less than 3 minutes away for what could be his 3rd win of the season. Now all he has to do is navigate through this pack of lap traffic. And so far, Beets has been very gracious of the cooperation that he's gotten from the lap traffic. In fact, he's offered up thanks, whether it be through the voice channel that these drivers utilize to communicate with one another or through the text chat. And one of the hotkeys he's able to utilize to thank and appreciate each lap car for giving way to Beets and allowing him to maintain this lead of nearly 9 seconds. But he's got a pack ahead of him, all racing for position. That's Corey Peters up ahead. That is the 15th place car that he is putting a lap down through the Andretti hairpin. How fast is the pace in which Beets is setting? Only 14 cars remain on the lead lap in this 60-minute race with 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, and those 14 cars are about to turn into 13, if I'm not mistaken, because he's closing up on BC Void, who's actually fighting for position with Wade Hayes, and Gavin Cohn is not too far ahead, so we're going to have to wait and see how many drivers are going to be left on the lead lap. Obviously, BC Void wants at least one more lap to try and pass Wade Hayes for P13. Wade definitely wants this race to be over soon so he can protect the P13. But, you know, Chris Beets doesn't look like he's slowing down anymore. So with 1 minute 30, looks like we're going to get only one extra lap. If he doesn't pass him, the drivers ahead of him are going to get an extra 2 laps to battle.
So Beets perhaps aware of the time, as there's a car very slow as they come through this sector of the racetrack, and Beets appears to be mired here behind BC Void. Void's going to give way right up here towards this last straightaway to the final corner, and Beets is going to come to the line. Oh, and a spin behind them. One car goes sideways in front of the pack there. It looks as though he's going to quickly try to get a tow back to the pit area. No, he's actually going to straighten it back out. That's Alexander King, who was running very strong to start this race. King, though, is now 1 lap down back in 16th spot. Thankfully, that spin was behind your leader, Beets, who, as he came to the line that time through, I do not believe that he saw the white flag. Even though he came to the stripe with about 40 seconds to go, we're still showing the green flag being out. So Beets may have to navigate this track for another lap and a half before he could sew up a victory.
Obviously, if that happens, the question is, does he have enough fuel for one extra lap? Because we all know that these drivers in the quest for extra time and all sort of stuff are going to fuel up just enough to make sure the car goes over the finish line, and then it can run out of fuel. So the question is right now, do not only Chris Beets, but do Jesse and John and Chris and all those top 5 drivers, do they have enough fuel to go one extra lap? No, looks like we have the final lap right now. So the question is not going to need any answers so far.
So very fortunate here for Chris Beets as he is working his way through the far side of this track for the final time. Up off of turn number 11 and the straightaway that will lead him home for the 3rd time this season, and he will close up the battle atop the championship standings. Back-to-back victories for Chris Beets. He gets the win in round 6 here at Laguna Seca in dominating fashion. Beets the winner, and you have to wait a long ways back in the tune of about 7 seconds to find Jesse Webb, who comes to the line in 2nd. These two continue their top 2 streak, and Sarah Rabb has crashed on the final lap. What a heartbreaker. How much time does she have to be able to muster up a top 10 finish here, as that looked as though it happened coming down the hill by the corkscrew?
Yeah, exactly. It looks like the mistake that we saw some drivers making on the practice session, unfortunately caught Sarah on the final lap of the race. Unfortunately, it looks like she just dipped the wheel on the exit, on the apex exit, and just unfortunately threw the car around. So we're just gonna have to wait and see where she finishes. Just behind Trevor Anderson, it looks like. That is just heartbreak for her, just punching the cones out of the way. But no, looks like she finishes P8 still. So she just lost time to Christian Gerges. But that's still heartbreak for her. You know, she was finishing in P7, the place where she started after doing a great recovery race. But you know, that's racing for you.
With that 8th place finish, still going to go down as her best finish of the season. What a race and what a performance by Chris Beets as he is able to capture his 3rd win. We've had 6 races so far this season. Webb has won 3. Beets has won 3. Perhaps a shift in momentum in this series as we approach back-to-back endurance races on the slate with only 4 races left to go. Beets your winner, Webb 2nd, Wittendorf your podium. We're going to step aside momentarily and catch our breath. When we come back, we'll hear from our front-running finishers here as we just wrapped up round 6 of the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series here on Pit Stop TV. We'll be right back.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Welcome back to the WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca, where we just wrapped up our 6th race of the season for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. And if you look at the results, they're very similar to what we've had all season long. Same 2 names at the top 2 portions of the finishing order. However, tonight it was Chris Beets now matching Jesse Webb in the win column. And we have an opportunity to talk with Chris Beets, who is in victory lane for the 2nd week in a row. Chris, first of all, congratulations on the win. But I got to say, I don't have a full stat sheet in front of me. I think this was your most dominating performance of the season thus far. From qualifying all the way throughout the race, the final margin of victory of over 7 seconds. I mean, is this as perfect of a race that one could have in this caliber of a field?
Oh man, first off, thanks. Appreciate it. Really stressful win, even though there was a bit of a gap. There was a lot of traffic to deal with, but yeah, it felt like it couldn't have gone any better. Uh, the car and the track and me all blended together perfect, and I felt comfortable here going fast.
Now, you mentioned lap traffic. I would say that's probably one of the biggest variables that we had to deal with here so far tonight. And what a stark contrast from how the race was a week ago at Imola, literally decided by a last lap pass. Tonight, though, I would consider it a momentum shift. You know, fresh off the win at Imola, now tonight, not only were we able to, build up and maintain that lead through the lap traffic and circumstances. What does this do for your confidence with 4 races to go, 2 of them endurance races, knowing that you and Jesse Webb have pretty much been going blow for blow all season long? Does this win and the manner in which it took place, does it kind of bolster your spirits in the final 4 races?
For sure. I mean, you don't always, you don't want to be on your back foot trying to make up places, and at least we're on level playing ground here going into the last 4. The Nürburgring, it could be. I mean, everyone knows it could be an awesome finish for everyone, or it could be a catastrophe. So I'm going into next week just kind of hopeful I can finish.
Now, before I ask you a question about next week's endurance event, I have one more question for you about tonight's race, and that was pit strategy. I've been fascinated by the fact that the field could be on so many different wavelengths. Everybody seems to be waiting till about the last third of the race to get that stop done. But you were, and Jesse would eventually end up following you, perhaps the last car to come down with under 14 minutes to go. Was that a pre-planned effort? Did you have it kind of figured out how long you were going to have to conserve fuel, if any, up to a certain point in this race to pit that late? Or you were just kind of allowing the pace to dictate when you were going to stop for fuel?
I was allowing the pace, really, to dictate it. This track isn't exactly a fuel-saving track. So I just kind of rolled with it and pitted when I had to. Obviously, the later the better. The lap traffic, as many cars as you can jump through lap traffic is the bonus there. So leaving it as late as possible is the key strategy there.
I would think that up to this point in the season, I would consider Detroit to be perhaps the wild card of the calendar thus far, but we got the Nürburgring next week, and you mentioned the fact that there is so much uncertainty heading into that race. Obviously, it's an extra distance race as well. Does practice for an event like that on a track like that, does it really help? Could you put in enough laps of practice to prepare for that event, or is it just going to have to be one of those things where you're going to have to take it not only lap by lap, but literally corner by corner when we get underway in 1 week's time there?
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't been practicing already, you're already behind. It's one of those tracks. If you are learning it this week, good luck. Even the guys that are experienced still have big oopsies there. So again, just trying to survive next week will be, and getting any points from that race will be a bonus.
Well, we certainly can't wait. Fortunately, though, you've got a few days to celebrate the success you had here at Laguna Seca. Before we let you go, Chris, I know we always want to offer up the opportunity for you to thank those who make this possible for you. You're tied for most wins of the season so far in the win column. Who helps make that possible for you?
Yeah, my wife, as always. I keep forgetting to mention Mikhail Rudebersch. He does our paint for PSM, and I think the Lambos and the Audis that Jesse's running, I think they look great. So shout out to him for awesome paint job and looking good.
Yeah, especially with how many times we're taking pictures of that car after a night like tonight. Congratulations on your 3rd win, Chris. We will talk to you next week at the Nürburgring.
Awesome. Thanks. Have a good night.
Again, that is Chris Beets, who will close up that championship margin, 17 points coming into the night, behind that of Jesse Webb, who also happened to be our runner-up finisher tonight. So I'll turn it over to JP Costa, who's going to talk to our 2nd place finisher tonight in Jesse Webb.
So Jesse, not the ideal qualifying session for you today, starting off obviously in P5. I guess that's a bit of a no-no, but a great recovery race, finishing off in P2, again matching your worst result of the season so far. So talk us through what happened in qualifying. You couldn't just get the clear track, maybe just not enough confidence? What happened that made you finish P5?
Well, I knew at this track I'm not the quickest. I mean, I knew the track, but I've never really done a race here. This was actually literally my first race here, official, or at least something with other cars on it. But yeah, when I say everything went wrong, everything went wrong. I was on to do a possible 2, probably a low 3, and just totally screwed it into, I think, turn 6, but it's the uphill and leading up to corkscrew, center right off the track, and I just didn't feel the setup this weekend. It was just it just didn't feel like it was all there. You know, the setup was trying to kill me in the first half of the race. It just never felt like I could get grip in the tires. It was like they were cold forever, and it just kind of sucked with being able to stay on track, and it didn't work with me.
Yeah, we saw you struggling on the first part of the race, sorry. Obviously, you got a great jump on the start of the race. You obviously jumped to P4, and you kind of stayed on that bubble P4, and then you got into P3. Obviously, would you say your overtakes were a bit of on the lucky side due to traffic and a few mistakes on the first part of the race, at least?
I think, honestly, the first part with Mikkel is his internet. It was bouncing all over the place, and I was just kind of a little bit worried to follow too closely. He was definitely quick, but I didn't want to risk really a move because I know when internet goes like that, you can have serious netcode, and I wasn't down to have a wreck. So I was more waiting for that moment that I could get in and just make an easier pass where I had a little more space, because I knew Beats was just long gone. I saw him on my relative. I think he was 6 seconds in the lead, so there was no chance of catching him. So I just needed to focus on getting by him cleanly and then focus on Brunnemer, which Brunnemer has good internet. So I think I would have been able to put a little bit of a better move on him, but unfortunately he got a little stuck with the traffic.
Yeah, exactly. That was the move. Obviously, Chris unfortunately got tangled up, but I'm pretty sure it was Michael Della Sala on traffic. What was your view of the incident? Did you think Michael maybe let off the gas on the wrong part of the racetrack, and that allowed Chris to run on the back of him? What was your view behind both of them?
I'm going to say that's unfortunately 100% Della Sala's fault. I haven't really looked into it, but if he did let off the gas, then you just can't do that when a car's right there, because you don't have time to react. You're so far away from the corner. It's totally unpredictable. Lap cars, I know some of them, lots of them are really good, and they let you by, and they say on the comms where to pass and stuff like that to make it safe. But unfortunately, some people, I don't know if they grasp the concept yet, and they just don't know quite what to do. And it's unfortunate that it does end some people's races, which is, yeah, again, unfortunate for Brunnemer.
Yeah, exactly. And with that, obviously, you secured P2. Obviously, a pretty easy pit call. You got a bit of a gap to Chris, and obviously after John. And, you know, you finished off this race. So after, obviously, you said it was your first race on this racetrack. How would you rate your race out of 10?
I'd give it, you know, probably a 7, because my race was good, but my qualifying was just really not. And to have 20 minutes and just not get a lap is one of my more embarrassing things that I've ever done. You know, I had such a long time to get a lap down, and I just couldn't do it. And I knew I had the pace. My relative was a 40 or a, whatever lap times were, I think 41.2. So I knew I had the pace. Just unfortunate that I couldn't put the time down.
And what about next week, the Nordschleife? Do you think you're comfortable with that track, more comfortable with this one? Do you think you can challenge Chris Beats maybe for the win there, maybe run away with the lead? How is your experience with the Nordschleife?
Well, this is interesting. I've only run, at least I know all the corners, but I've only run it when I just started sim racing in the Daytona or in the Nürburgring 24-hour back in April of last year. So it's been a long time that I've seen this track, so looking to definitely put some laps down, but again, at least I know it, and it seems like a track where you don't have to have screaming pace to win the race. You just need to be consistent and not crash, because we know that it's just covered with metal barricades or barriers, and you know, you make a small mistake there's very large curbs to give you a nice little bit of floor damage, or then go into the wall and it gives you a massive amount of damage. But I know Brady and I, or sorry, not Brady, Chris and I don't think we're really the fastest there. I think we're going to see a little bit more of a battle from, you know, the top 10. I know Brady's really fast there, James Hansen. Those guys are ones to watch for sure.
Oh, that's great. Well, hopefully we can talk to you again next week. Do you have anyone to thank for this race?
My mom and dad, everybody at PSM, and definitely Beats for kind of giving me some motivation this weekend, helping me out and making sure I stayed in that Audi because he didn't think it was worth using my hall pass, which I'm very grateful that he helped me to come to that conclusion.
Well, that's great. Thanks for talking to me. Congratulations on your second place, and I hope to talk to you next week.
Sounds good, thank you.
And that was P2, Jesse Webb. I'm going to pass it now to Eric so he can talk to our final podium finisher, John Wintendorf.
Thanks a lot, JP, and it's a pleasure to welcome to the broadcast booth for the first time in 2021, by virtue of this podium finish, our third-place finisher tonight, John Wintendorf. And John, after 3 fourth-place finishes, you finally got that one notch that got you to a point where you could celebrate a podium finish. But you guys provided the most entertaining race of the night. It seemed as though you guys were either always around each other or always around lap traffic. From your perspective, what was tonight's race like? Was it as intense as it looked like from a distance with us watching on?
A lot of it early on, at least for me, was just managing my car and keeping myself in contention and staying alive. I wasn't really in the position at least for the first half to make any really aggressive moves, and just wanted to be there at the end, really.
Which is something, John, that you've been good at throughout the season. We mentioned the fourth place finishes. We didn't see you at Belle Isle and then caught up in some bad luck at Spa. For the most part, if it wasn't for the DNS at Detroit and the incident at Spa, you'd be right up there in the thick of it with these guys as you were last season. So how is your 2021 going so far, and what does this third place finish do for you as far as your confidence with 4 races still to go?
Yeah, it's definitely been a tough season, especially compared to last season. The competition is much tougher this season as well, especially at the front, so that doesn't make things any easier for me. But we got a couple of good tracks. We got 3 races left, 3 or 4 races. So we've got some good tracks coming up that I like, and we'll see.
So you mentioned tracks coming up that you like. 2 of the races left of the 4 are the extra distance endurance races. One of them is perhaps the biggest wild card of the year, which will be next week at the Nürburgring. You mentioned some tracks that you're confident about going forward. Which tracks are those, and what are your thoughts about the Nürburgring next week?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the Nürburgring. I'm really excited about that event. I think that, once again, just like with everything else that goes on at that place, as long as you don't kill yourself in the process, you'll be there at the end. I think we'll have pretty strong pace there. We had a good run last season at Bathurst, and it's one of the last races, so as long as we don't have a repeat of that event towards the end of the race like we did last time, I think we'll be good there too.
It's probably the most confidence we've heard of any driver when we talk about the Nürburgring, so the field better take note on that one. Now, John, with this being your first podium finish of this 2021 campaign, I'm sure a lot of people go into making these races possible for you. Who do you have to thank for finally having the opportunity to showcase a positive podium-paying result from the pace that you've had all year long?
I don't really have too much to say. Just thank you guys for putting on this show, and everybody, all the admins in the league, for organizing everything. They do a great job. That's about all I have to say about that.
Well, thank you, John. And, because obviously having somebody like you in the field certainly helps elevate the competition. We're happy that you finally got a solid reward with a third place finish here tonight. Really looking forward to how things fare for you next week at the Nürburgring. Congrats on a great day at the racetrack here today, John.
Thank you.
And again, that is John Wintendorf, our third place finisher here tonight. Surprised to hear how confident he is heading into the Nürburgring. Out of the top 3 finishers, he seems to be the one who's looking forward to it the most. And that race will be taking place 7 days from now. But first, let's see how they came to the checkered flag at the conclusion of tonight's race. We heard from our top 3 finishers, Beets, Webb, Wintendorf. Brunnemer, though, was in that mix, in that battle for top 3 supremacy all night long, had to settle for 4th. And Sven Hartmann, by far his best finish of the year, and also the highest finishing amateur driver in the field. What a job for that for that driver, who rounded out your top 5. Mikel Ruderbusch, who nursed an injured car home to the checkered flag in 6th, had the pace all night long, was fastest in practice, up there in qualifying, just got tangled up while racing for a top 5 spot, missed it by 1 marker at the checkered flag. Christian Gerges was 7th. Sarah Rab was 7th until the announcer jinx clipped her there yet again on the final lap of that race, was able to come home in 8th. Trevor Anderson 9th, and Jimmy Allen your top 10.
Finishing in P11, we do have Jackson Lowry, the last car not to get lapped by Chris Beats, the race winner. Gavin Cohen finishes in P12, the number 83 of Wade Hayes finishes P13. In P14, we have BC Void. Those two had a race-long battle, I guess, for P13. Unfortunately, BC couldn't get the position. In 15th place, we do have the 97 of Corey Peters. After sustaining damage on the first lap of the race, he finishes off P15 with the damaged Lamborghini. P16, we do have Alexander King, who suffered a late race spin on the last corner, but luckily no damage done to the Ferrari. P17, we do have the 110 of Ryan Coulter. On P18, we do have Alan Roth. In 19th place, we do have Patrick Hearing, and in 20th place, we do have the 124 car of David Flanagan.
Rest of the field outside that top 20, see Justin Mikhaila 21st, Mick Blue 22nd, and George Tachek, the last car, just 1 lap down. Jason Frisk was 24th, Randall Ayers 25th, 26th, Brady Lubenow. What pace Brady was able to show. He was the car that tangled with Mikel Ruderbusch while battling for position before backing into the outside retaining wall or tire barrier. Lubenow 26th, 9 laps down, but what a performance for that driver. Looking for a positive result in the final 4 races for sure. Derek Carboni was 27, John McClintock 28, Tyler Langenberg 29th, Michael Della Sala involved in the incident while they were battling for that second spot in 30th, and the rest of the field sees in the 31st position, just outside of these front runners here. Alex Trevor, who had to retire early, Spencer Vick, who also had to retire early, and James Hansen, who was involved in a multi-car crash on lap 1. So that's how they came to the checkered flag for this race. Before we bid you all adieu, I want to extend one more thank you to the league partners of this series, of which include BenQ Cinematography, Liveries by Sarah Rab, and Tam Livery. And thank you to them for all they do for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. It is because of them there are a lot of additional prize packages, incentives, and motivation up for grabs for all of our competitors as they wind down this first 2021 season for the GT3 Series. We also want to thank our partners here at Pit Stop TV, and we'll kick it off with our friends at Tucson Sound Art. We mentioned the fact Valentine's Day is right around the corner. This is an opportunity for you to get yourself a deal because you send them any picture that you want. They'll put it on a beautiful custom canvas with a high-quality Bluetooth speaker equipped with sound art. That way you have the best of both worlds. Again, they're such a good partner of Pit Stop TV. You could use promo code PitStopTV at checkout to get 10% off your next purchase. At the website to do so, TucsonSoundArt.com. Talked to a lot of drivers tonight about how they got themselves set up and equipped to race not only tonight, but also for the Nürburgring next week. Well, if you're curious of maybe how you can kind of up your game going forward, then you need to check out Race Pace, because if you ever wish that you had a race engineer on speed dial, this is your opportunity to do so. We have a driver development service and setup shop all in one. You can work with our buddy Tyler, who's a real-world race engineer, and step up your game before your next race. Be sure to pick up the pace with Race Pace. Also, speaking of gift ideas, permanent makeup in Cryo in Maine is another one that you should certainly explore, because when it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy. Ashley Bullier is a certified micropigmentation specialist who provides professional, safe, and most importantly, personalized services. Now, contact Permanent Makeup in Cryo in Maine to schedule a consultation or visit their website or social media platforms. That website, permanentmakeupinmaine.com, to learn more. Again, Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, permanentmakeupinmaine.com. And lastly, Whiplash Media, the parent organization of Pit Stop TV. And they are, of course, responsible for numerous facets that go into our production and broadcasts all week long and all night long as well. I know it's a bit of a marathon night on Mondays for the whole crew, but everybody does a spectacular job. And a lot of those resources, whether it be stream overlays, paint schemes, iRacing, camera packs, and more, come from the Whiplash Media Group. And they also have a presence in real-world racing, offering services services such as photography, social media management, and public relations. To learn more or to check out some of what they've done, visit whiplash-media.com. We have a full slate of racing action on the docket for the next 7 days, kicking off again tomorrow with Operation E Motorsport in their second race of 2021 at BIR. Bluegrass iRacing Series is taking it to the road course at Watkins Glen on Wednesday night. Thursday, we're going to take the day off. Friday, we're back in action with LTAC, race number 4 at Milwaukee. Saturday, the Nork Classic at Daytona, the eve of the Daytona 500, an opportunity to see some of the drivers from Nork compete in their prelude to their season opener. And then next Monday night, we have the BRP iRacing Series at Weed Sport. That is the dirt racing series that has provided incredible action on the Pit Stop TV platforms. And next Monday night, the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, their 7th race of 10 on the season at the Nürburgring, the ultimate wild card, second endurance race on the slate, as we are going to wind down the number of races left to go in this championship series. And I cannot wait to see how it all pans out. JP Costa, what a night, what a race, what a series. Absolutely love it. Loved having you on board as well as Emerson Arden did an amazing job with all of our visuals here tonight. Corey Rexford, who hits it out of the park each and every time on socials. But JP, I know it's the first time I got to work with you on this series. What are your thoughts? I mean, 2 different winners so far in 6 races, tied at 3 wins apiece. Great racing all throughout the pack. I mean, who could ask for anything more?
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, it would be nice to see someone else winning, but, Chris and Jesse, they deserve, they just showed they're the class of the field. Chris, obviously, dominating from start to finish, led absolutely every single lap. Jesse, even though he got a bad qualifying, he just put the work on the race and finishing 2nd place. The rest of the grid, obviously, great racing throughout. Unfortunately, we did have a first lap crash, but, it's Laguna Seca, it happens, just mistakes obviously happens in real life as well. So we cannot blame everybody, and just absolutely clean racing from everybody on the field. We barely had any contact between the drivers, and this is what we love, fair racing, exciting racing, and hope to see more of this in the Nordschleife next week.
Well, happy to be working alongside you once again, my friend. Hopefully we can do this a couple more times before the season is out. But for now, we are going to bid you all farewell. On behalf of everybody at Pit Stop TV, our incredible crew, Emerson Arden, Corey Rexford, JP Costa, who joined me on the call tonight, I'm Eric Brennan, and we will see you all next time here on Pit Stop TV. Good night, everybody.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.